Hey guys, it's Charlotte here from Turn Up Louder, and I'm here with Aaron Pauley, frontman, bassist, and I guess right now producer from Mice and Men. Did I miss any hats there?
Um, I can juggle too, not
I
professionally.
mean, is that coming out on any shows when you come back next year?
Oh, absolutely not.
How are you
Absolutely.
doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I guess this kind of 2 years has been a bit of a weird time for us all, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem real. At
Nope.
like there's so many things, and it was funny because yesterday was the first day I actually saw all of my bandmates in person, and we were all at the same place since the pandemic.
Damn.
Um, which is crazy since we've like put out a record or are getting ready to put out a record,
Mhm.
and we haven't seen each other. But um, Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We were discussing things that had happened during the pandemic, like the
Mhm.
toilet paper shortage and the times where the grocery store was only open for people of a certain age or older. And then if you were a younger person, then you had to go and it was funny because I was like, that doesn't even, I know that it happened, but it doesn't feel real, you
Like,
know?
was that a bit of a dream in the past, or did that actually happen?
Yeah. And it puts a lot of things into perspective, you know?
So since you joined the band, would that be I guess probably the longest you guys have been apart, right?
Yeah, and that's been the longest that I've gone without playing a concert since I was 15, 14 or 15 years
Yeah.
old.
Oh
So
God, yeah. So
over
a lot
half
has
in
changed.
over half my life, that's the longest I've ever gone without playing shows. And it's still going. I can't say it's the longest I've gone because it's the longest I am going without playing
Yeah.
a show.
And hopefully it will be the longest you go without playing a show
I
eventually when you guys are back.
Yeah.
So I guess let's pull it back to the start of the pandemic. You guys were pretty quick to hop onto Twitch, and you guys were like playing games with fans, doing watch-alongs and quite interactive sessions. What made you guys want to do this?
Um just the interaction and connection. I think we sort of recognize that when you're in an unprecedented time, that entertainment has sort of um, it becomes sort of more of just a necessity rather than just entertainment. I think when the world is so crazy that people, turn to entertainment to sort of escape it, I think it becomes really important for creative people to get to work. And I also think it gives a lot of it gives creative people purpose, because otherwise it's difficult sometimes, especially as a musician if you're touring all the time, being between cycles and being between tours and not really having that sort of routine or feeling of purpose. But then when we know that we're not going to play shows and we know we have or we learn that we have the ability to produce records on our own, um, it sort of gives you the MO and the ethos to then say like, this is how I'm gonna tackle this and this is why. So um, if there was a silver lining, I think that was the silver lining.
So when you guys started doing your music sessions on Twitch and you're writing, was there much of a plan, or was it just kind of we're going to go in, see how it goes, and maybe one day they'll see the light of day?
Uh we always write, so there's always stuff in Dropbox. There's always new ideas. Even before when we were self-producing, we always would self-produce all of our own pre-pro before going into a studio and
Mhm.
essentially creating it. Um, Yeah, we definitely didn't go into it knowing, okay, well, this is going to be the album. But I think once we'd sort of got the skeleton of the first three songs done, we all sort of got together, especially with our team, because we knew we were going to put out EPs. That's basically all we knew was we were going to do an album and we were going to release it in the form of EPs. And beyond that, it was like, all right, well, how many songs? Well, I don't know. What are they going to sound like? I don't know. And then you get to work and those sorts of things sort of flesh themselves out, and it's sort of stuff that's really really hard to kind of pre-plan for.
So did the global like vinyl delay and shortages that we're going through at the minute have an impact on the 3EP decision, or was that just a we knew we were going to do it before?
We sort of realized the logistical difficulties in physical after the fact.
Mhm. What
um
perfectly then?
yeah, and thankfully there's enough availability of and access to DSPs, like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, that if the music has to live solely in a digital space for several months while the vinyl gets created, for us it was just important to get music out to people. I think the Timeless EP came out, the same time, and I think that was it. After that, we were like, "Oh, Bloom, that's going to be 3 4 months delayed album, perhaps more."
Yeah.
But I think vinyl in physical format is more of a collectible rather than the means of access to the music. I think I don't know that anybody says like, "Well, damn, if I can't get the vinyl, I can't listen to it." So, and I'm sure there are some, but
And you guys definitely have like a variant collecting fan base. And I guess those three EPs really end the album with all the different splatters and splits you guys did really help play into that.
yeah, I think just trying to produce as much stuff and being able to work with an artist like Derek Hess to create the album artwork. There's so much more value, I think, in that, in having the big vinyl and seeing the artwork at its sort of larger DPI, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess we should kind of dig into the music. So you kicked off the era with Obsolete, and it's a kind of a song that questions the future-proof nature of, I guess, society as a whole, from the throwaway in of phones every few years, and even life and death of social media, which, we saw MySpace and Bebo go years ago. Which one's next? What does it mean to you guys, though, as a band, as a song?
Um, it's funny because I feel like I started working on that song, even lyrically, before any shutdowns or anything like that had happened. And I
Mhm.
think that those sorts of feelings of obsolescence come with age and come with seeing how, like for me, it's like I turned 33 and I'm not like a young person anymore. And there are young people out there, and all of the things that they love and care about and are interested in are different from the things that I was interested in, and sort of seeing how things change and wondering how, as things change, where you fit into it. I think you start to have those thoughts more as you age and as you're just sort of more aware of sort of how impermanent things are, and also how the idea of like legacy and things work and play out in their importance and whatnot.
And then Obsolete turned into the Timeless EP, and then we kind of then moved on a few months later and we stepped into Bloom, and Bloom carried on the adventure that sees you yourself produce this band and I guess create the sound you really want. As a band, you've worked with producers from David Bendeth and Josh Wilbur in your kind of later years, from Restoring Force to Earth and Sky. Did working with these producers impact how you created and how you transferred the Of Mice and Men sound into what it is now?
Oh, 100%. Um, Not just on the technical side of recording and mixing, but the songwriting side, learning to think of musical elements as musical elements rather than parts or tracks. The idea of like when I'm mixing a song, it used to be like, oh, I got to figure out how to get the guitar tracks up. And now I don't think of guitar tracks as guitar tracks. I think of them as pieces of music, and I'm going to control how much you will receive of that. It becomes sort of a more like esoteric and complicated process, but it's super rewarding. And I think we've always been that band that was very, if anything, overbearing to our producers, because we wanted to be in the room, we wanted to be involved, we wanted to understand. And I think we've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to work with the people that we've worked with, and that definitely allowed us, or not allowed us, but it definitely gave us the confidence to sort of see whether or not this was something that was worth undertaking.
And do you think it'll be something you carry on in future, or do you still want to collaborate?
Um, Both. I think it's, if anything, it's sort of it's refined our, I think, musical decision making when you don't really have all the full tools of a studio. It sort of forces you to, when you have a limited number of tools, you're sort of forced to develop your decision making with regards to elements you want in your music and whatnot. So I definitely think yes, and there's definitely a huge project with a huge number of collaborations on the way, and that's all I'll say about it, because that's all I probably can say about it.
Very nice. We love to hear it. So let's talk about another great track. Sorry, in the form of Mosaic. It's a track you kind of said is about a societal discord, especially with social media in today's day and age. Can you talk us through that track a bit more?
Yeah, a lot of mornings I'll sort of wake up and I'll scroll through social media for about 5 minutes, And then I'm like, I don't know what I want to post. I don't really feel like I want or have anything to say. Um, and just so you sort of get like a top-down view of the calamity of everything, of just how, because social media gives people anonymity, and it also gives people a license to sort of act however they would want to act with very little actual like physical real world repercussions. um, it's super chaotic. And I think for me, sort of drawing the comparison, between like a mosaic picture is if you've ever seen like some of the mosaics, like Renaissance times, they're absolutely gorgeous pieces of art, and they're all made from tiny little broken fragments that had to have been smashed at some point. And it's kind of like I think of humanity that way. There's a lot of beauty in the chaos, and there's a lot of ugliness in the chaos, but it's chaos.
And then obviously we've got Echo coming next, and that'll well, we've got the EP Ad Infinitum, which will which will be the third EP and then we get Echo as the final chapter. So we've got a few more tracks to come, and you're closing off the EP with a cover. Now, the nerd in me and also the gamer that I know you guys are makes me question, you're covering Crosby, Stills and Nash Helplessly Hoping. Did this come from The Last of Us, or was there another decision?
Is that in The Last of Us?
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
I had no idea, and that's really cool. No, that song was like, it was always a song that was like played in around me as a child.
Hmm.
My dad listened to a lot of Jim Croce and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Simon and Garfunkel, and Bee Gees, and things that like, that's why I think there's a lot of harmony in our music, and just like in my vocal style, and in the melodies that sort of make my ears perk up. It's a lot of sort of harmony and counter melody and stuff. But when around the time that we were working on Bloom in the summer of last year, my fiance Amanda's mom passed away. And we've been together like 16 years, so she's been my second mom for over half my life, and that was a devastating loss that inspired that record. And then as we were finishing that record, Tino's mom passed away. And you sort of become very aware of time and your impermanence, and how when you're a little kid and you hear 100 years, you're like, that is so long. And when you're 33, you're like, I'm already a third of the way there. 100 years is not that long, you know?
Nope.
I think your perception on things changes, and the things that mean a lot to you, that perspective changes. And that song sort of found its way back to me during the time period that we were um, emptying out her house, and getting rid of belongings, getting rid of an entire life's worth of belongings that you're like, um, and that song kind of like found its way back to me. I know that sounds like bullshit, but I don't know. It's very strange how it just sort of felt like the right thing to do. And there's no real other explanation other than it was just, that made sense. So I have a real hard time explaining why, but
Hmm.
that's the best I can offer, I
I
think.
think that perfectly explains it. I mean, I just jumped to Last of Us because Joel plays it for such a brief moment, but hearing the actual story behind it is so beautiful and pays a lot of respect to the people, I guess, in general, that we've lost during this pandemic, and
Yeah.
a lot of like your fans will have lost as well. So I really appreciate that, and thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I guess the final question, which I guess that touched on, is what does this body of work mean for you and the band, and what does it represent?
Um, it's the biggest cliche that has to do with music. Music is the universal language. That's so true. And language is for communicating. And in a time where so many people are going through unprecedented things, and we are going through unprecedented things, and people are experiencing loss, and people are experiencing fear and anger, and a lot of feelings that we typically have outlets for mitigating those, but suddenly we don't. Um, I think there's a lot of value in sharing your human experience, for no other reason than to connect with somebody who might be feeling or going through the same thing. Um, and it's a great thing, and it's a bonus when you can do it in music and people think your music's good or it's cool, and it's, but that connection of somebody saying like, I get it, which is, it's three simple words that mean sort of very little but also mean so much. If somebody can listen to you expressing how you feel or you expressing your human experience and someone goes, I get it, that is such a hugely valuable thing, and not just for fans of music but for us as people who create. um, I've always made music and made songs because it's easier for me to not only figure out how I feel but to express how I feel. It's, the musical language to me makes more sense and feels more three-dimensional than just language, which is ironic because it's half of a song is words, you know, it's lyrics and stuff like that. But you can play somebody a sad song on the violin with 0 words anywhere in the world, and everyone will pick up on the fact that it's a sad song because it is such a universal language, and it's yeah, I love that cliche because when you really start breaking it down, you're like, wow, it really is sort of one of the most effective ways of communicating your ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and feelings with other people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and sharing these stories with us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And it's always great to see you.